I wish I had some sort of wheels or controls or something.
Because all of that previously was muted. So
I think we're muted.
What's going on?
We're still muted, are we? Are we still muted?
No, we're not muted anymore.
Hi.
I've been going crazy with these two.
You can just hear me
There's
laughing.
only one of me
at you.
here. I might be wide. Do you mean original Ben? Or me?
Both of you. Both of
Okay,
you.
right.
If another Ben walks in this room, I am going to lose
What I need
it.
you to do now is concentrate. Right.
Yes. Okay, you ready? Calm down. Deep breath. In, out, in, out. Welcome to Hobby Hangout, where we bring you your ASMR needs. Big Ben is going to breathe into the microphone for
Hi
you.
guys.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us this week.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, John cannot be with us.
How unfortunate is that? That is
Yeah.
really unfortunate.
He's out in the other room, actually.
It's all right,
but
'cause I'm
he's
here.
preparing for QCon this weekend up in Belfast.
Yeah.
So we brought the next best thing in. Tom couldn't be here. So we got the next one.
The next
We got
one.
Big Ben from 4Ground.
Yeah. Highly pixelated, twice as big as the average person in width.
And we have Scout Ben on
Hello.
Original
Original
Ben.
Ben.
Yeah.
We've got
The
Big
original,
Ben and
the original gangster.
The original dwarf fan.
This is going to be a fun day.
It's going to not be that short for you either, is it?
But that's okay.
Come on.
Let's go.
Let's do
go
it.
see
Let's
what
do
they've
it.
been up to.
Lance, I
So,
promise to be good for several minutes.
Big Ben, you haven't done any of these before. Have you seen any of the live streams?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you kind of know what we're up to.
Yeah, but the
We
best
looked
thing
through-
is to not be primed. I mean, I know for you guys it's horrendous, but for not, I like that. Excuse me, I like that. Straight. I like that.
Like this here?
Yeah, I like the look of that.
All right, so we're going to dive into Aurora in Bags, Massive Darkness. So this was the
Ooh,
Massive Darkness
yeah.
Kickstarter, and it was huge.
Yeah.
And Aurora has been. So Ben, you might notice here.
Yeah.
She's got 38 points in skill.
Yeah.
9 points in shooting, and idea it's 4.
Yeah.
So we can kind of see already, there's a
Yeah.
lot of skill going into
Yeah.
this. And because I've already voted on these, we've already seen some of them before, but
Yeah.
we'll let you see. So this is a fantastic rainbow unicorn.
All right. That's really nice. The kind of person I am, I just noticed that as well. Well, that's nothing to do with what we're doing, though, is it?
No, that's a new piece.
I like that. That's Tabletop World.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
No, keep your
fisherman's
eyes
house.
keep your eyes focused on this.
Yeah.
If it's
But
easier,
don't you
keep
feel like
your
we're
eyes
don't you-
focused on that one.
don't you feel like we're trolling now?
Very good.
Yeah,
Very
okay.
good. Yeah.
No, I absolutely love that unicorn. I think
That's
I
a
saw
troll,
some.
mate. That's a troll. That's a
Yeah,
unicorn
I'm
now.
behind you as well. Don't worry about it. But
You're
yeah,
behind me.
I am. Yeah, I'm in that helmet. Yeah.
That's the original. You should be in front. Think about it. Anyway, carry on. Let's get serious, guys. All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, but the reason
That's a troll, mate. That's a troll.
I was looking at some other stuff this weekend that had come up. People have been painting up styles of unicorns and stuff for D&D, and they'd done them with that kind of rainbow style mane, and I thought it looked absolutely amazing. So it's really nice to see it work out there as well, and the colours look nicely blended, which is very cool. So
But I've
yeah.
got a question for you. When I see a unicorn like that,
Yeah.
obviously I'm talking about a serious subject like D&D and that, so I'm becoming serious. I actually feel when you see it with like a rainbow mane, I prefer to think of it as a manifestation rather than a creature.
Yeah.
When I see one with like, if you like a more natural horsey kind of look to it, I then think of it as like a living creature.
Shapeshifter.
No. I just mean that if you want one to be a manifestation and make it. This is going back to the old DM thing. Is that if you put a unicorn on the table and it's got rainbow mane, then I'm hoping they'll guess it's a manifestation. Whereas if I put one on the table that looked like sounds really odd, like an oxymoron, but a real unicorn. Does that make sense? Because sometimes you like to give them hints. Oh, I like that. Oh, sorry.
There's an interesting
That is
thing
really
that
cool.
in that case where like you look at some ways that unicorns have been done in other things. So for
Yeah.
example, in the Dresden Files, you have like a unicorn that's been done in a very very, very different style,
Yeah.
where it's made a lot more natural and so it's like hefty and like it looks more like a Shire horse, and it's got like a twisted horn and stuff like that. So, but
and I know. Sorry, mate. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Ben. I just meant to say that again with what Lance has got there. I would say that's, to me, in most instances, that would have been a manifestation as well. But it could have been a construct, couldn't it? Because it could be something that has been magically constructed, and there's so much heat that it made it combustible, and so it's burning the oxygen around it. Yeah.
So Aurora actually says here in the comments, it was actually a demand from her 11-year-old daughter that it should be a rainbow.
Well, I think that is really cool because, also I know that for both my daughters, it was, that's getting onto a slightly different subject. But for both, I've got 3 sons and 2 daughters. Now, for my sons to get into gaming, that wasn't a problem because their dad got into gaming. But for us also, it wasn't a problem for my daughters to be able to get into gaming because their mum was in gaming. And I've always thought that it's a really good way to express yourself. It's a really good way to express yourself. Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
So I quite like it as well. It's just showing off her community badge.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's really important. Because it's a lot of this, especially as we're now getting more and more stuff, which by virtue of the fact that it is likes, it's peer reviewed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
I saw this before. I think this is a really cool sculpt. But Aurora's painting method around this is really brought it to life. Yeah. Because it's water you usually see is like, I know a lot of people use fantasy water as blue, but water is never blue. It's clear. But because it's in a dungeon, she's added like a little bit of like purple highlights, purple shades.
Yeah.
I'm thinking so too.
Sort of like a sewage.
Nice.
Sewage salt.
The other thing that's really fascinating about this is it shows a real progress in someone's skill. Like, because we've obviously been following her, doing all her painting stuff for months and months now, and all the stuff you're seeing here is just really high-end stuff. Like, it's for like a range of dungeon creatures. I think this is really, really well done.
Even the elemental, the blending between these colors is amazing.
It's
really
very
nicely done.
Indeed.
And she actually shows like all of her painting recipes as well at the end of it, so it's very good for tutoring. So because I'll go up to the very top of this post and I will put in a tutoring skill for those two, because I think the skills here is phenomenal, and because she's explained all of her recipes, I think tutoring is really nice for that too.
Yeah, I also think people, I mean, I don't know what the right phrase is for. The only issue with this is people might think that this is too good for what I can do. But most people aren't sat down next to someone to tutor them. So most people go online and give it a practice, give it a go. It's like anything, unfortunately. It's time served on the tool. You know, like they used to say with the old craftsmen, that they weren't, until they. And it's the same with this. The only way you can get better at painting is to do it more. And in fact, like we were talking about the fact that sometimes it's just so hard to do your own little projects sometimes because you're involved in the industry that it's almost. It's the same with me when I'm designing stuff. To design stuff that I want to design, like I used to do before I did this, it's really hard because your brain is confused. If Lance wants to play a game, he should really be playing a game that's relevant to what's just come in or whatever else. And if I want to design something, I've really got to think about what projects are in there. And it's very hard to compartmentalize things so that you have fun doing what you used to have fun doing. Does that make sense? Ben or Lance,
yeah, definitely. Because like we have the new what is it, Game of Thrones came in.
Yeah,
so we're doing some recordings of that.
Yeah.
But I also have like,
we were talking about that earlier.
Kingdom Death is sitting here, and it's been sitting here for a while. Yeah. And every now and then I just go back to it and think like, I really want to play it, but I need to set aside like 10 hours.
That's a real coffee table kind of a book, isn't it? Really, is that is just so beautifully laid out. Everything about it is beautiful. And then we were also saying about Kingdom Death. It's one of those games where if you don't do it service with time, you're not really getting the full experience. It's one of those ones that can really handle you wanting to get immersed in it.
Yeah.
So next up we have Grot Loba working on Looted Primaris Redemptor Dreadnought. This thing, even just by the image alone, looks phenomenal.
It does.
Yeah, so this was the one that we saw this in its sort of early stages back when we were doing the XLBS on Sunday, but now, as you can see, it has progressed into a full-on, crazy-looking, awesome painted project as well, which is very cool.
Oh yeah.
And he's gone to the effort. Like, this is like pure kit bashing, awesome.
Yeah,
which is great to see.
And it's sorry, Ben.
No, go.
It's the old traditional thing, you know, with like the beer on there as well, and it harks back very much to having real fun. That's one of the things I think that's really good with 40k is that if you want to have, I mean, I once had in Gorka Morka the Moonies, and they were all painted in orange, and they all had trouble keeping their trousers up. You know, but it's that kind of you know, that kind of thing that
that's
you can have a lot of fun
definitely
with
like, especially I think it's something that's very key, as you say here with orcs in 40k. Like, they enable you to have that fun when it comes to the like a very grim, dark universe, because obviously orcs are very horrible, terrible creatures, but they also have really fun aspects to them, and so you can have so much sort of so many crazy times diving into your bits box and making stuff for orcs. It's a very inventive army. I think that's the key thing behind it.
And obviously, not obviously, but it's also an army that younger people can get into, because although they are gruesome and nasty, it's a comic caricature.
Yeah.
Although if you want to make your orcs look really horrible and detestable and scary and villainous, you can do that. And that's what I like about it.
So, Ben, you maybe haven't seen before, but this was what it was. This is the build-up to it.
Yeah. Was that Ben? Was that original Ben should have seen this? No. He should have seen this. I mean, it's excusable.
I don't look at what I talk about.
It's excusable if I haven't. That's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute though, because that looks like green stuff. That doesn't look like wire. That looks like.
No, I think what this is the green stuff that, you know, those little flatbed.
Oh
things,
yeah.
and you just roll them up, and it turns into these.
That is so cool. Can I just say also what I like is forward planning in this, because if you see the magnet point on that, so that
right here.
you know, to have a really nice, and what I like about doing that sometimes as well is you can have a really nice display base, and then you could also get something like something that's more practical for a game sometimes. Or you could even have a base that's sort of like snowy and another base that's tropical, and so you can switch them out. Because I always like to feel immersed in the game, so obviously I like terrain, but I also like the miniatures to, you know, it's one of my pet hates, which is really pathetic, is you know, you're doing it's not so much when you're doing a snow scene, because you can put something white on it. But when I'm doing something that's supposed to be an arid desert, and all the bases have got
bright green meadow
or snowy rock, it's like, hey, what's going on, guys? Sorry. But
I think
this is beautiful. This is beautiful.
I think that's where people are looking a lot more towards clear bases. Like, one of the big things I've talked about on Weekenders before is where, especially for games like Infinity, where you're spending a lot of time transitioning between urban environments and sort of outside environments as well, you want to have something that's maybe based on clear bases for that kind of game, because it works a lot more and it keeps you sort of cemented within the game that you're playing.
It's that suspending disbelief, isn't it? Really? Yeah, good.
So
they're cute.
We've got some
Birds
Birds
of
Badgers,
Badgers.
by Dunham. These are really nice.
Now, what I like about them is the way that they've chosen to shade and highlight. It actually gives it almost an illustrated quality, if that makes sense.
It almost looks like it's watercolor.
Yes, like so it looks as if it's stepped out of
Enid Blyton, or
it's like a very grim Peter Rabbit.
Well, Peter Rabbit was pretty grim.
All right, you have issues with Mr. McGregor, do you?
No, I have issues with Peter. Peter was a little jerk. That's what he was.
I think you need to talk to someone.
You know why he was a jerk?
I think
because
you need to talk to someone about your issues. Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail.
Of course Peter's going to act out. With the name called just Peter.
What you're trying to say is you don't feel he was given the same consideration?
Yes.
Okay.
So he acted out. And it wasn't even his fault, it's his parents' fault. That's who I blame, Peter Rabbit.
Do you know what I thought was really amusing before we did this? Is I was thinking, oh my God, Light's going to have such a night. That's nice. What we're looking at. Light's going to have such a nightmare today. I'm now wondering whether I should ask to be relieved to go to the toilet and not come back. Because you're really scared. You really have issues, don't you, with what bunnies are called?
Yes.
Okay, mate.
With Peter Rabbit. But if you want to go to the toilet,
no, I'm fine.
As long as you come back.
No, I'm fine. I just want to actually go slightly back with some of the comments because it was Green Stuff World. I noticed as we were going along. Was the one where somebody, I don't actually remember who it was. I can't find it now.
It was Green Stuff World Tentacle Roller to make
that's the thing. And I think that the roller system that Green Stuff World is doing, it reminds me of. There's a word for those rollers in it. I can't think what it's called. But you see it in cake decorating and everything else, like where you roll things on.
Yeah.
And also they used to do it so they would be cut out like. Where you could roll them onto a wallpaper design kind of thing, or a piece of pattern, and then some guy goes, oh, I could make a really nasty thing out of this, and I think that's awesome, and they're really, really cool. I like them.
Mm-hmm. I like what Mark, I think it's Mark Dunham. He's got reference photos, which is
Ryan Dunham.
Ryan Dunham, yeah. Like he's gone through the research and like getting reference photos of this little stout. I was going to say stout.
A Stark? No, that'd be a dog.
A stout,
A Stark? No. A stout, no, that's a drink. It's a stout.
My grandfather had tons of these.
I really... This is the kind of thing that always happens to me when I... to do my...
How do you have stouts? Ben, we can't hear you, mate. What's he saying?
It's okay.
Your grandfather or your father had stoats when he was young?
Yeah.
The little tiny ones?
Yeah.
Wow.
He used them for farming, for hunting.
Are you sure it's not ferrets?
He had a mixture of ferrets and stoats.
No, polecats.
Maybe.
Yeah, because a champagne ferret is part polecat, which is what's known as the agouti colour, which is the natural colour.
Okay.
And the polecat is the one with the dark eyes. And then the ferret tends to be like an albino-looking thing, the true ferret. You can also get champagne ferrets. What worries you, I know, is how come I have so much crap in my head? But that's why they call me. Anyone from the UK who's heard BBC Radio 4, they actually call me Radio 4 at work because I'm that noise in the background that's occasionally interesting.
I've been listening to a lot of podcasts recently, and I basically need you to make some podcasts.
No, you don't.
So.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Go on.
I'm loving what Ryan's done here, and I love the amount of photographs that he's doing. And he's talking about,
especially that stoat.
Yes,
that stoat was nice.
And I can't wait to see more progress.
Getting back to that.
As I was saying, sorry, this is the kind of thing that I always end up doing when it comes to painting birds and magic stuff. I have my laptop next to me with reference images up, and then I'm trying to get all shades of fur and everything right for everything. So it's very cool to look at interesting and new animals and see how the fur works.
And I always think with zoomorphic. I always think when somebody does that and they try to make characters out of a normal an animal into a it can fail so easily, and then when it's done right, I'm thinking particularly of Animal Farm being done right.
Yeah.
It's done really, really well, and I can suspend disbelief with this. It's like I'm playing a violent children's tale.
Yeah.
But
well, it's very much the mouse guard.
It's mouse guard.
Yeah.
Red Wall.
Feel
to it and everything.
Well, for me, it's very Red Wall. Yeah.
It's why I love birds and badges.
Yeah.
You have a selection here.
Am I allowed to choose from the
Which
selection?
one would you like to look at?
I want to look at. I tell you what. I'll look at the fantastic fighting forces at the top. My only concern is actually because it's 4Ground stuff behind him. But let's see what he's doing.
So
that's
nice. Fantastical fighting forces.
Yeah.
Got a lot of skill. And some idea in this as well.
Well, that's good.
I'm going to skip down to the bottom because for some reason the projects show it from the most updated. So we never see.
You can switch it.
I actually find things like black really hard to do, and so what he's got with the race there, I think is. Or do you say it's 2 people or 1 or whatever? Anyway, I think that's good. I
was
streaming weeks ago, May 25th, when he posted this.
Are you trying to say I don't watch enough?
No. He was in my chat and he was talking about how he was painting, and I was explaining that I don't like painting solid black on miniatures. I like painting up to black and using black for almost like not using black at all.
Do you want to know a really boring thing?
What?
Did you know the Vikings didn't really have a word for black?
What did they call it?
They called it very, very dark blue, hence Bluetooth.
All right.
So he actually had a black tooth, and the reason it's called Bluetooth is because he was actually called in Norse at the time very, 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 very blue tooth, which meant black. These are not. I like these because it harks back the way these have been
like
painted.
The face crotch.
Pardon?
It's like the face crotch.
Do I like face and? Are you? Oh, the picture. Sorry,
Yeah,
I didn't know what you were
Lance
saying
was
then.
propositioning
I didn't know what you were saying.
Yeah.
Then. Yes, I do. I do. For me, you see, it's not something I would like to overly concentrate on, Lance. But again, you'll probably find he's called Peter, and he's got his face.
Okay.
And that one there is Flopsy, or Mopsy, or No Tail. No Tail. Yeah, there you go. I like them there.
The reason, this is Peter.
the reason I like these is they're sort of like Renaissance-esque demons.
They are, yeah. They're very.
They're a Bruegel-esque kind of a demon, and I like that style as well. I like the cat. Do you know how to make a cat sound like a dog? Light whatever on its back and make it go woof. You've got to look at the cat now. I'm missing it. Yeah, okay. See. It's a woof. See? Or is it a dog? I don't know. Well, it's going to go woof whatever it is.
The thing I liked about this
Did you like that?
project
That was good, wasn't it?
was the fact that he's taken, in like the wider sense of what he's doing with the gaming thing here, is that he's taken the Frostgrave rules and he's instead of placing it in Felstad, which is the one that is the setting for Frostgrave as a whole, he's actually used old world miniatures, and he's been going back into Warhammer Fantasy. And I think that's really cool, because one of the big things about Frostgrave is it can actually be played solo as well. So if you wanted to get into sort of a little bit more of the role-playing side of what you're doing with Frostgrave, you can almost look back to sort of Warhammer Fantasy and Old World and try something like that, which is very cool.
Yeah, because I mean, my issue with Frostgrave, and it's not really an issue, is that's one of those occasions where it very much depends on what kind of game the other person wants to play. It's a game where you could become really beardy and kill everyone, or it's a game where you can experience the game for what it's for, and that's definitely one of those ones where I prefer to play with a familiar gaming friend, and it's one that you can play solo when you're on your own because you've got no friends.
We have a comment here from Chris Caesar. I have a weirdly specific
Chris, it's me. Yes.
Well,
so Chris. I think you were in the same year as Will at school, and I know when you came, Cad and Adam started a gaming club, and they used the dispatch bay of our workplace, and they had their gaming club, and it was really good. They also had, but Will also had it at school. And it was really funny. Joking aside, in those days, it's a very important thing. But one of the deputy heads decided that any adult man who wanted to come in on a Wednesday afternoon and play toy soldiers with children definitely needed checking out. And it was no good me saying to her, there's a lot of blokes, there's a lot of people that do it. That was, of course, sorry, Chris, that was, of course, many years ago. But yes, mate, you have to come over sometime. You know where we are.
Okay, next up we're going to look at the Rat's Nest.
Oh, I like that.
The Underhive Settlement and Rat's Nest, saluting
I love this one.
I do. That's cool, but that's also been somewhere similar to where I've had to be thinking with my work design time as well. I do like that.
It was interesting because we looked at a piece last week, which was sort of like a large Underhive terrain set. And the interesting thing about this is now looking at this one, you would have thought, looking at something like Necromunda, that a lot of the terrain would look very, very similar. But because of the different styles and the kind of different terrain kits that have been picked up to use this, it's actually very, very different. And this one feels a little bit more darker and danker than the other one, which I thought was very cool.
Yeah.
And just the way the lighting's been done and everything is fantastic for this. Cool.
The letters, Ben.
They are letters, well done. Which Ben, original or me?
We did it! We did it. They're letters. They seem to be off like those little like Christmas things where you like.
Do you know? I was worried you're going to say you got the spelling wrong, which I'm proud of you for not mentioning that. I had actually noticed that the spelling is correct. Right. I think what's important with playing something like Necromunda is it's really good to be able to break down the components so that, say, there's a good chance if you're playing Necromunda, you're going to play 40k. It's a really good idea if the components for a good Necromunda board can be used individually. What would you describe it as? A less cluttered table, I suppose? Modular.
It's I think that's a good idea actually, because it's one of those things where it means that you can develop a terrain collection and not have like unnecessary parts for it. So which is very cool. Because things like those like power stacks and stuff,
I thought that was a razor blade. Sorry, carry on, mate.
They could be turned from things that are like part of the overall terrain piece that you see here for the Necromunda table, and instead used as something that's more like an objective marker in a larger game of 40k, which is pretty cool. So also, it's a multi-use gaming tables and terrain is very important.
Also, it's going to be quite relevant as well with that if you wanted to play something like Fallout. Because,
yes,
you know how you, like you say. Anyway, so yes, I do like that, and I like that as well. I always love it when I see people kit bash and scratch build stuff.
Just things.
Yes,
get inspired.
The household.
Yeah. And for a long time, I mean, I love where Games Workshop's at, but sometimes for a long time, I feel that with certain kinds of gaming, people felt they had to use what they were presented with, and it's getting back much more again towards the old days where it's all about the game, and I think that's important. So I'm really enjoying where Games Workshop's at.
That's very good. They've done a lot now, which is focused towards the
hobby,
talking about the game
as gamers.
So if they with this blue, this would work perfect for Fallout because Fallout's got that like kind of 50s.
Yeah, but the thing you've got to remember with Fallout is it 200 years? It's a long time. So everything is literally faded. From when it was first put up there, and some of it, the only thing it's really got wrong with it is just it's aged and it's been exposed to daylight, and the weather, and so so I do like that.
That's great stuff. Anything else, Ben? Big Ben?
There's loads.
What would you like to see next?
Print me a Necromunda table, please.
Okay.
So where is it then? You
this
printed it,
is.
I knew you would. What is idea is brilliant, they're not happy. That's harsh.
Well, hold on a second, because it might just be a short project, maybe they're starting off.
Oh, it's just started, is it? Or
I think so.
It's had a couple of little entries into it, but this is an interesting take on what we've already been talking about, because we've obviously looked at a table there which was made in a more traditional method, which is using bits, boxes, and that kind of thing, and then this is someone making their own table using 3D printing, and so using their own designs and own ideas to produce something a little bit different.
And actually, I like the reason for the chemical spillage. Do you know what I was? I like all of this actually. Do you know what I was thinking? Is this reminds me of somebody who really used to like playing Dungeon Keeper, and has decided to have Dungeon Keeper or in Necromunda. So I like that. I think that's really interesting.
So is this
cool.
been primed before I would have maybe suggested to just do a wee bit of a clean up on this.
Yeah, or paint it as if it's corroded.
Yeah.
One or the other. Yes, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I want to say that this would be good for like Hellboy, actually.
Yeah, again.
It's got a kind of pulpy feel, so which is pretty good. I mean, I guess that pervades a lot of what Necromunda's about anyway. So.
Yeah, well, that gets onto the old subject of what is pulp, doesn't it? Really. I mean,
Wow. Yeah, it's like when it comes to discussing what cyberpunk is and all that kind of thing. It's a very wide genre.
Yeah, and it also depends on your I know it's going to sound stupid, but like the generation you come from and your perspective of it. Because, I mean, for me, pulp is any kind of adventure game set from about. There was a period in history where European nations recognised each other's territory if they managed to put their flag there.
Yeah.
So you've got the grab for Africa and that kind of period. That's definitely pulpy because, and I believe the Russians did it with a submarine a few years ago, used this old European law, and didn't they put a flag at the bottom
they did
of
it
the
in
North Pole?
Antarctica.
Somewhere.
One of the two.
somewhere, and they said, "I think you'll find it's ours," because if you remember this agreement in 1815, it says that if we have a letter from our government telling us to put a flag there and nobody objects, well, if they object, they used to die. And the British were very good at that, and it's just great. It's like no one's. Everyone should still respect that law because no one's questioned it, and the world is going. Moving on, we'll just ignore that then. But yeah, there was a time where they were so arrogant that the only people they were really fighting with were each other. You know, that's very pulpy for me, and that goes right on then, right the way through sort of the South China Sea pirate kind of thing. That goes into Indiana Jones kind of African adventures. I suppose it also it goes right the way through 1920s, 30s.
Well, that's the important thing that I think, because that seems to be where a lot of people are focusing that pulp genre on at the moment. Because if you look at things like Pulp Alley and they're doing and stuff, and antediluvian miniatures and those guys, they're focusing it on that kind of sort of
Indiana Jones
exploration style.
Indiana
thing.
Jones period, which is when it really became sort of well known. But there was that old character? Was there a Flashman or something? Which was like Adventures in the Empire kind of. I can't remember what it was exactly, but you're right. And then again, if you're talking about,
you are right, Harry Flashman.
That was it. I knew it was something like that. I keep thinking of Flashard or whatever
What?
Hans, how are you doing, my son? Which was they were great caricatures from Blackadder, but. But yeah, I really like that as a game in any case. So we got onto.
But I wanted to just quickly go back to what we were looking through there, because we were looking through Doug the Fog's project, and Doug's been doing some amazing stuff when it comes to his Normans. Yeah. I think we've talked about it a little bit before when we were looking at him as like a golden button recipient and all that kind of thing.
Are we going to go back to that then?
Yeah, we can.
He has painted through so many models, and he's painted so many full armies, and he's one of those nice painters who's developing his skills and getting more into the detail work and everything like that. Yeah. And he's done some very, very cool armies over the past couple of months, which is very nice to see.
What he's done here is actually he's put in a discussion from the Hobby Hangout live stream in his project as well, so it's a nice little throw to it.
Do you want another piece of trivial history? Yeah. Or moving on.
How long do we have?
Moments if you let me do it. If you discuss, all right, go back to the guy with the vine staff, the baton de command at the top.
Up top, okay.
Okay, and there you go. There's a mounted guy. Now he's carrying a vine stick, and that's what eventually, or sometimes, became the baton de command. But the vine stick was actually the staff of authority of a Roman centurion or centurio. And I can't think of. There was a famous statement where, and it was used for administering corporal punishment as well as direction on his own men. And there was one, and I can't remember his name for the life of me, but his actual nickname was "Fetch Me Another" because he broke so many of his men's back. There you go. That's a little bit of Radio 4 for you. But I think it's lovely when people can. What the Romans did was they left a lot of non-official. Especially when you look at some of the finds that have been made. Written references, and imagine your men behind your back calling you "Fetch Me Another." Yeah. It's like people at where I work, they go "Shut him up" as my nickname, or Anyway, sorry. Yeah, Walking Dead, love it.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go down to the bottom, look through the Walking Dead stuff.
Again, objective markers look really good.
We actually show some of the participation games from the boot camp as well. So this was actually from the top here. This is Doug the Fog again, actually.
Yeah. Quick, let's move then. Let's not look at this then.
And he links through to all the boot camps, which is amazing. Yeah. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah, that is very helpful, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. What I like about that game is talking about the game rather than this occasion. What I like about that game is you can play, especially with younger people, because it's quite difficult gauging when younger people should play with zombies and things. Mm-hmm. But you can play as a team against the table almost, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I like it because it is a modern world dungeon adventure sometimes, that kind of thing. You've got to find a location.
Very much
so I like that twist to it. And I like the game, I like the artwork.
I like the idea of playing the game without the zombies or the walkers.
Yes.
Because then it turns into a skirmish game as well.
That you're quite correct with that. That it does work well like that.
I'd like to point out as well, before you go on Skype, Ben, that he is also spoke about the Beast War 2.0 game ratings, and he's created his own review for it. So if you want to, you can click into the Walking Dead All Out War, the game.
Wow.
Nominate it, rate it for whatever you would need to.
Yeah.
So you go across and you
this is his work.
Do all these ratings, and this is his own review. So if you click here, content, obviously you can see all the full the Walking Dead content. But if you click reviews, Doug the Fug has created a review for it too. Amazing.
Yeah.
So he's been using the website for everything so far. Amazing.
Well, it's an interesting point for anyone that's wondering. There are a lot of games and companies in the library, but there are still some that we're adding as new stories and stuff come out. So if you don't see something, it will be there, and then eventually there will be an option for backstages to be able to put their own games and stuff as well. So
I love this.
Yeah, because at first I thought, did he have a nervous moment? And then I realised it's tie-dyed. And then that's when you have that sudden wow moment when you're thinking. First of all, you go, and then you go, wow.
Because this is. Whenever I first looked at this, I was like, "Oh, that's quite a messy paint job. What happened there?" And then I realised it's tie-dye, and it's amazing.
But it's when it gets
Fantastic. He just needs a surfboard, just.
Doug says it's his favourite shirt. There we go.
Yeah. Are those 90s cups we used to get milkshakes out of? That'd be perfect, just lying on the floor of that.
Is that when they called you Peter? No. Okay, Karen. No. Flopsy?
No.
Moxie?
My childhood nickname was Georgie.
Georgie, yeah.
My childhood nickname was Angry Beaver. There we go.
Beaver.
Yeah.
Moving on, obviously. That's interesting.
Not for that reason.
That's interesting. I can't remember what my childhood. I can remember one because my first name actually is Damien, and I was at one point called Day Day. But that sounds really sad and pathetic. Like somebody who's called Peter and wants to be given a nice name. Anyway, moving on. I like what he's done here with the bikes as well. I think it's another one of those games where you can really go to either the toy shop or the car boot sale and say, "Wow, that's awesome! It just happens to be right for the scale." I mean, whether you call this, whether you say that this game is a 28mm game or 28mm heroic or 32mm or whatever you want to say with it, a lot of those 1/43 vehicles work really well with it. Yeah. Yeah, you can do a lot of scenarios there. And also, if you just look a minute about the way what he's got there is he's actually positioned the vehicles that you get with the game, so they look as if the damage that's on them has actually been, caused a moment before the people stopped functioning as people.
It's very cool. Yeah, it's one of those things I'd like to see, because of one of the things I was going to say earlier was that because we were saying about Walking Dead and how you can play it in very different ways. It can be very modular and you can really get into it. Yeah. I like the idea of using it to almost play through different settings as well. So there's a video game called The Last of Us, and it has clickers and things in it like that. So if you went to companies like Hassle-Free and you picked up some of their really cool miniatures that are sort of not the characters, you could play through different game genres and give different stories set in post-apocalyptic worlds using the same game system. Which is really cool.
I don't tend, when I'm playing, I'm a real fan of the comics, the Skybound comics. I have been. I've got I have the when they put 4 issues in together, and I think they call it a graphic novel, and then you get
graphic novels.
So I get them regularly sent to me, like my Beano, every few months. And I happen to know Ronnie Renton actually used to get them sent to him as the cartoons. And he was always trying to spoil it for me whenever I was with him. And so when he actually got this, I was really thrilled. And of course, for a real fan of the original, I was really pleased that it was following the perspective of the original storyline rather than the one that. But in any case, I really like what's been done there. I would like, as Lance was saying, but I would still use this in a real world apocalyptic game. This is the game system that I would use, because Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just looking at like the T-shirt. I love The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
For the creativity people have done for just T-shirts.
Yeah, that's good. You like that one, do you?
Because I remember seeing someone made all the walkers have band T-shirts.
Yeah.
So it was like they came from like a Metallica concert.
Yeah.
Or something. I thought that was.
But
fantastic.
that's a really good idea. You know, there's also actually I think another company that does some really good sort of zombie-esque kind of miniatures with biker gangs and that is Westwind. And I can't remember.
They do,
but I know I have some of theirs, and I really like those. I also really used to like their Vampire War miniatures and that was sort of like Romanov kind of vampire-esque East European. Do you remember what was the movie with Frank? I think it was the Frankenstein movie. I'm trying to think what it was. Quite recent. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's probably the most recent one. But I don't think it was. It wasn't.
Radcliffe, was it?
No. Is it the really weird, like almost sci-fi one, or is that something different? Or
no. I'm thinking of the one where Frankenstein's monster is seen as the sad victim kind of thing. The one with the fire and with the if anyone can remember, what was that?
What's the?
Oh, I can't. You know what I'm trying to. The one I'm thinking of.
Yes,
it's very much that kind of feel. It's Eastern Europe going to Vienna.
Frankenstein.
Probably.
No, I don't think it's Frankenstein.
No, probably not then. I'm very agreeable because I haven't got a clue in time. But and it's that kind of feel, that sort of.
I think it's the one with Daniel Radcliffe and James.
Well, what position was Daniel? What did Daniel Radcliffe?
Daniel Radcliffe was Igor.
No.
Yeah.
But did it look like? I know.
He had a huge cyst in his back, and then Victor Frankenstein healed him because they all.
Victor Frankenstein was the new one. Yeah.
Yeah.
How new is
I think it's the.
They created the monster and then they realised it was a mistake.
Yeah, is that the one? Is that the one
the
where the windmill or something burns down? The villagers burn it down. It's in colour. It's a modern movie. I know people laugh at me when I'm talking about stuff that was actually filmed in black and white.
Is it the one with Kenneth Branagh in it?
Yeah.
Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Yeah, it could be that one. Is that the one?
Yeah.
It's in 94.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's new to me. It's all
Robert
relative.
De Niro.
What?
Robert De Niro was Frankenstein.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it was that one. No, it wasn't that one.
Excuse me.
My brain
That's
is
quite a
very
good one.
jumbled
Although
up.
there is a wrestling scene
What's that?
with a lot of oil, which was quite funny.
Yeah. Is this Wild West Exodus?
Yes, this is actually Justin's Wild West Exodus.
Ah, right. Yeah.
So I thought we'd.
So I like the theme of this. I like the
That's what it
actual. I like the world.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it the fluff, the backstory.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
What Justin's doing as well is he's like painting steps and he's showing all the paints that he's using, which is really nice of him.
Yeah, that's a good way to because like I was saying
Wouldn't
earlier.
be Justin without a bottle of Boost in there.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
But yeah, he's showing off all the steps.
And he's actually showing them clearly which paints he chose for that moment as well.
So if you're looking for like a step-by-step tutorial for this warband,
Yeah.
I don't want to say warband because it's not really
Gang.
Yeah, gang.
Yeah.
Posse. Yeah.
That's getting on to that subject though. That's really, really interesting because Skirmish gaming.
Because if you're looking for to make guides, this is a very good way to do it.
Oh yeah. And what people always need to remember is this, that it's your gaming hobby. If you find a miniature from one particular range or something you like from one thing and you want to bring it over to the other, then you do that.
Yeah.
I really, you see, I could see those in a dystopic sort of North American army trying to impose in a steampunk fantasy 1854 kind of America, saying, I think you'll find Japan, you will be trading with us. They turn up with their steamships, and then these are the troops that are sent ashore, and then they come across some fantastic samurai who can use Jedi. For your okay, so I'm a sad person, but that's just the world I belong in.
Do you like his mouse mat?
His mouse mat.
Yeah, this here. That's his mouse mat.
What is it then?
Moving on.
As someone just let's gloss over what Genuine Vision just said.
Is that one of those occasions where you're not going to tell me?
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh,
We've got
dear.
some soft shade on this now as well. But this turned out really well.
Well developed or what?
Yeah.
This the way he's presenting it,
Uh-huh.
I think is a really cool way of doing it, and I think that's something also I'd like to see. Well,
Yeah.
we have seen. I mean, look at that. You know, his wet palette.
So, without spoiling anything, we do have another train challenge coming up, and this is kind of like how we would like to see it being presented. But you'll find out more about that this weekend on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as the way
And then
we're
he's
filming,
actually
that's
shown
later
off,
on this afternoon, isn't it? But that's
Yeah.
for the weekend.
and he's
Whereas now we're live. We can do. Look, oh look, people, you'd have no idea why you can't see us. That's why you can't see us. Imagine if beards were Velcro. Oh, it'd be awful. Just a thought. Carry on. Moving on.
okay. It's imagined. Moving on.
Yeah.
And Justin, he has shown off every single character as well throughout his gallery, which is really nice.
Yeah.
He didn't finish the bases though, which I'm not surprised of.
Yeah.
So we need to get on him about that.
Yeah.
Um,
I like the way the sharpshooter turned his cap round the other way.
oh yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That's all down to the sculptor, though, isn't it? That's down to the sculptor's interpretation. And that, if you go back another one as well, that's a lovely pose.
Yeah.
You know, I like
quite
talking about the sculpts now. That's what I was, you know.
Quite a bit of authority to that one.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, he's finished off his post, and you know he hasn't done the bases. We need to get onto him about that.
Yeah, you keep bringing that up almost as if you want to make him think it's an issue.
We need to make it
Yeah.
an issue. But he's also mentioning in his post as well of how he can expand as well, and he's showing up some sculpts and getting some ideas. And if anyone wants to comment on that, they can and say what he should go for, maybe what's better for the theme or what's better for gameplay or something.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Any of these stand out to you?
What does that mean?
Any of
For
these
Beasts of War?
fantastic
No.
projects?
Sorry, you're the one you were scrolling over at the time. The Kingdom Death.
The Kingdom Death.
Ah,
of Beasts
this
of War.
is Chris's work. It's very cool.
Yeah, so Chris, who comes over and films actually
Yeah.
Kingdom Death.
Yeah.
I said Kings of War. Kingdom Death stuff.
Yeah.
He's making,
You don't want to do that. What we don't want to do is dwell on the fact that you said that, do we? Especially when Justin hasn't finished his basing
Yeah,
yet.
exactly. Chris.
You don't seem to be able to keep the plot going. It's almost like you've spent hours with me today and you're really sort of shell-shocked, isn't it, really?
I'm going to wake up with a cold sweat in the middle of the night with PTSD.
You won't.
No?
No, if I stroke you, you'll go back to sleep.
So we can see the
What
beginning.
were you
of
talking about? You have
can see the
Is
beginning
this
of
turned
this
into one of the
project.
worst sessions of your
Oh
career?
no,
here?
no. I'm really enjoying this.
Okay.
You'll never wake up again.
Oh, he will at the correct moment.
Yeah.
The thing I like about this is that Chris has always shown us off some really nice stuff in terms of the progress of his models, but
What
it's
I
always
like is
been
original
like,
Ben, who's not in the studio, comes to rescue you. Well done, Ben. Take it away.
and so this now gives us an
That's not-
opportunity to see
Yeah.
him showing off different styles that he's gone through and showing off the techniques in a little bit more detail, and he's doing video stuff as well, which is very cool.
I
So
like that.
it always allows us to get a deeper insight into the models that he's
Yeah.
painting up. So he's done some amazing stuff for Confrontation recently, and so it's really nice to see him coming back to Kingdom Death and
That's
looking
so
at some of the monsters
parrot-like.
in detail as well. So
Yeah, if you go back a minute, one more. That is really cool.
Yeah. I just want to say that, like, even that, which is unfinished, it still looks incredible.
Still
like
looks
he could just
amazing.
leave that as it is, and it would look perfect for that kind of like world.
Like it feels like it's come out of the rulebook, if you know what I mean. It's got that kind of artistic look to it.
It looks like it's been transformed from like a statue. It's coming alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
Did you know you smell different when you're awake?
Moving on.
Oh dear.
John! He's actually put up a video as well, a little vlog discussing how the process went into it. I watched this earlier and he said that he spent about 2 hours airbrushing this just one beast.
Yeah.
But it really pays off, and he goes into explaining how he did it and like what techniques he would use differently, and how it compares to the one he's done before.
Yeah. But you've got to know. I know because I'm rubbish at it. You've got to know what you want to achieve. Because sometimes when you're doing that sort of thing and layering it up, it doesn't look like what you want until you're there.
Oh, you're preaching to the choir, Ben.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, it's always that painful step when you start doing that.
There's many models that I've painted behind you in which I've just like, whenever you're doing the base painting, you're like, this is terrible, this is awful, I hate it. And then an hour later, you're like, turned out all right.
Yeah, and that again is another thing where you're normally following somebody online because you're thinking this guy's not right, this is going to look awful, and then suddenly it's amazing. And then sometimes you can go back to an old army of yours and realise that just by a little bit of touching up,
usually just highlighting from
yes, it's always the finishing touches, I think.
So
which make the difference.
This is the Beast of War one on the left, and this is his one that he painted quite a few, maybe a year ago, I think, whenever he got the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
You can see, like, there's not a... It's almost like he's inverted the colours on it.
To a degree, some of them, yeah. He's definitely not decided to just give you a copy piece. He's looked at it again and imagined it again.
And while he says here 2 years ago, so he painted this one 2 years ago, there's not much difference in...
bananas?
Detail
no, not bananas, sorry.
There's not much difference in detail in it. Like, you could put them side by side and they'd look phenomenal. So he's definitely progressed, but I think these both stand out as their own pieces. Really,
as he said in the comments, I wanted it to be brighter so that it pops in the videos, which is very cool.
Yeah, so that's quite good. I mean, I was just trying to figure out a way that how the snips helped him.
The snips? All right,
the
here
yellow
in the background.
4Ground snips.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's
I have
quite
no
a
idea
few,
how they would have ever helped him, but I'm sure.
There's quite a few
there was
dangly bits on those
something
models.
Freudian going on when the word banana popped out of my mouth. I think I was, oh my gosh, product placement, yellow snips. Come on, moving on.
Moving on.
Yeah, let's do that one.
Kingdom Death.
Yeah.
We're going to Amanda's Kingdom Death monster.
Yeah.
As well. So.
It always really confuses me when you do that, where you suddenly drop us to the. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, drop us
all the way
to
to the bottom.
Yeah.
So Amanda is very active in the active in the website and constantly working. So we'll see a lot of work.
See, that is horrible and really good. You know. Oh look, that's more
horrible in the best way.
Yeah, in the gross way that the sculpt, that the miniature, you know, it's a harmless gross thing. How would you describe that? It's, I mean,
good gross.
Yeah, but if you didn't know gaming, and you came to see somebody's miniatures, then you'd think they were like,
those,
you know,
and you think, well, you've got issues.
Or they'd call them Damien Hirst, wouldn't they? Really?
Yeah. Well, Damien Hirst, you'd have to put them in a box.
Yeah, with ice cubes. Oh yeah. Oh my God, that'd be awesome, wouldn't it? Imagine having some non-gamers around and putting these miniatures in ice cubes.
If you play All Out War in a Damien Hirst museum with Kingdom Death miniatures.
Oh yeah, and some way of animating them as well.
And all you have to do is, the aim of the game is to smash up as many Damien Hirst miniature models as you can. I don't like Damien
Like sacrilegious. Yes, I see what you're saying, yeah. It's just half a cow! Yeah. What's the name of that guy who does makes sculpt? People donate their bodily remains to him, and he like pumps.
I have no idea.
He makes sculptures out of their body parts, and it's like, and some people go, "That's really amazing," and I'm going, "That's really gross."
Yeah.
He's the German guy whose name I can't remember.
I was going to say that really helped, didn't it? He's the German guy. It's like when you go It's like when you go somewhere and you say, "Where do you come from?" I said, "Oh, I come from England." "Oh, I've got a friend in England." "Yeah, you probably have, but I don't know them."
Yeah. I saw him do something a couple of years ago. But then there's another guy quite recently who was dying. I can't remember. He was dying of something, and he donated his body to science so that he could be mummified, which I thought was quite fascinating. And he went through all the old processes of everything as well.
Did he have a little sketch pad? He said, "I'd like that pose."
Yes.
I'd like that. Look at that. Look at the sheen though on the cleaver, the way that the blood is sort of like, I don't like that on the back, but it's just the way that the blood is. It's almost like it's of no consequence that the blood is there. I find it really hard to do that
dried
sometimes.
onto the blade.
Yeah.
The spatter.
I love the spatter as well.
It's like Jackson Pollock paint.
This is obviously somebody who did a lot of technical research watching CSI and spatter.
So this is another thing that I like that Amanda does,
Yeah.
is she puts up rotating GIFs.
Yeah.
So a little bit more extra work, but at the same time, it's one image, you don't have to flick through, and it's just nicely presented.
And with the boring bit of history, that's a lovely red lacquered pole, and that shows rank, and then you've also picked up that with your purple.
You mean that colour of royalty to things?
Yeah, and then you've got royal blue for the plume.
Yeah, very regal.
Well, what we call what we know in the UK as royal blue, anyway, is an old colour. Sort of. I suppose if you didn't think blue was royal, you'd call it very bright blue. They are awesome.
Some starting survivors as well.
Yeah.
I love the eyes actually,
Yeah.
because the eyes it's like crying mascara in a way. But it's got
Crying
that very
mascara.
very comic like look to it.
Yeah, and I also think of Clockwork Orangey. When I saw it from a distance, his one eye with the eyelashes on his face.
Kind of gives me a very anime feel, which clearly works very nicely for Kingdom Death as well, because it's got that level of thing. So
yeah. What you mean? You feel like it's Western culture gone through Asia and come back better than it started as? Kind of a feel.
Yeah, in some ways.
Yeah.
Which it's interesting when you look at Poots' stuff. Like when you see that what he's done for Kingdom Death, he's clearly taken like a lot of influences from sort of anime and manga, and then he's combined that with a lot of like terrifying classical Greek stuff as well. So
just say he's clearly got issues. He won't mind.
Oh yeah, he does have issues. Have you seen some of his massive monsters? He clearly does have issues.
I like here actually that each member has different hair color, and it stands out a lot.
Yeah.
Because I've seen a lot of people do like similar hair colors, which is just a nice, because there's not much you can really do to these to change them up other than maybe their cloaks or skin color. But it's just using the hair. It's just
but he's left the clothing looking like a death shroud, which is it's like we were talking earlier, or was it last night? We were talking about getting a lot of pigment powder on Justin's face and having the Justin shroud by putting a bit of that cloth on his face, and then we thought we'd just tap it down a bit, and then when you pull it up, you can sell it as the Justin shroud. And it's that same sort of they're not being fashionable; they're just wearing something that they happen to be wearing.
I just want to say as well, I think John commented on this, that the cloth work on these are really nicely done.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like. What?
I got an achievement.
What for?
100 skill nominations.
For what?
I give 100 skill nominations. Have you not got that achievement yet?
No.
No.
But then I wasn't worried about being called Peter at any point in my life. I do like the flesh on these.
Yeah. There's another project I want to look at as well. If we can go back to, I think it should be on page 2.
Page 2. Yes.
Yeah, it's something a little bit different. It's the Flames of War Vietnam project. If we can.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Where are we at here?
You see, if you think of Apocalypse Now, that's also a very pulpy kind of film.
Yeah. It's the themes in it that make it, I think. I think you just scrolled past it before, Lance. But
Lance, can you concentrate, please? Remember, I'm just Big Bender. The original is talking to you. Need a bit more focus from you today, I think.
If you go on F, then it should find it.
It's okay, I'll find it, Ben.
Okay.
Skype Ben.
Original
Ben.
Yes, because I wasn't speaking.
That's right.
But yeah, I wanted to pick this out.
When he giggled then, I'd like you to know that I hadn't touched him. Both my hands were here. But you give these little giggles like when you're sleeping. It's really disturbing.
Yeah. Especially when you say, compared to when I'm sleeping.
But yeah, I wanted to pick
Ben,
this
what
one.
would you like to comment about the
Yeah, I wanted to pick this one out because, as well as obviously someone painting everything in 15mm, which is pretty awesome anyway, and getting all that detail down and everything like that.
Mate. We can't tell.
It's the basing work that I really like for this as well, because it doesn't swamp everything. Because that's one of the things that I always get a little bit worried about when you're going down to smaller scales and miniatures as well, is when you look at some of the bases that people do and the miniatures get lost in the basing because they've clearly used stuff that's meant for like 28mm and stuff like that. But then I think this works very, very nicely because it gives enough cover and enough feel of that kind of jungle environment for Vietnam without it being a bit too oppressive.
But I like I like the way he's used the tufts as like big razor grass. That I can't think what the grass is called, but the grass that cuts you. So
pampas grass.
No, they had a special word for it, like something like razor grass or something. But what he's done is he's used 28mm tufts, but in the way he's used them, it's like he's used them in scale. If that makes sense, that's really good. And I think it's always difficult when you're thinking about scale appropriate things. It's like if I was. If I'm playing a skirmish game, I want to go in and out of buildings and everything else like that. If I'm playing a battlefield game, then they're just there to represent the area of buildings sometimes. And so not so much with 15mm, but sometimes with like a 28, you might even go down a scale, maybe go down to a building that's not of the same scale, or buildings that are not of the same scale, because you want to represent that part of the battlefield, and you don't want to swamp it.
Tuffy here said that it actually was called razor grass. You were exactly right.
Yeah.
So there you go. Yeah. But yeah, I thought this was a really fascinating project, and obviously he's done a lot of detail work on both sides of the forces here, which is very cool. So it'd be really nice to see this expand and maybe show off some battle report stuff, which would be very nice, I think. Because that's one of the things I want to see people using the project system for, is for battle reports. That could be very cool.
Yeah, I would love to see some battle reports.
And as Doug the Fug, I love the spelling of that.
Doug the Fug.
It takes real thought to spell it correctly for a fug. As Doug the Fug said, to not just get the tufts and put them all down there, but to actually get a few different colours.
Yeah,
bit of variety.
Because nature has that like shifting colour scheme throughout everything, doesn't
because
it?
Because in nature, Original Ben, we're all perfect examples.
We are.
We're perfect. We are our own evolutionary mutation, as is Lance.
We are indeed.
I like that. What am I looking at now?
This is Battle Mech.
I like that.
So
don't let Cad see.
1/60th
Battle
scale,
tech.
So that is a 1/6. So that is actually true. That's 48. If it's one. No, if it's one. Can't think now. If it's 1/46 is 48mm, isn't it? Roughly. A 28mm. And 1/50th would be 32mm. So that's going smaller. Quick glance, work it out. No, it's nice. So how's he made this then? Is this a kit? Is this cleaning a kit, or is this?
It looks like a kit because it seems too clean for a printout. But then again, your guys' stuff.
You
really
think he's an amateur and he couldn't have done this well? That's nice. That's nice.
I don't think he's an amateur. I thought at the start I thought it was plastic.
Are you saying you don't say what you think then? Now Lance has lost for words. If Lance had an eject seat, I would be a smear on the ceiling. Look,
He bought it off eBay. Man says.
Right, I think it's cool. I think from what we saw to what he's done there. See, I envisaged that was all sprayed white. In that sort of whitewashy way they spray things in combat zones where there's a lot of snow, and it's all worn off. That's the feeling I get.
It's all balsa wood, apparently.
What's that?
It's a balsa wood kit.
That is awesome.
This is what Commodore Rob says, but
Yeah.
that can't be right, can it? It must be.
Sigmar, build and paint
Venus.
by the Lost Dog. So if we go to the end here,
Did you say lost dogs?
by the Lost Dog.
But why? That's dog shelters do that, don't they? Cats, dogs. But that's another argument. You don't actually have to buy them sometimes, but they ask for a donation.
Yeah.
But then you'll find, I don't know if you know nowadays, but they tend to have fixed donations for getting rescue
Yeah,
animals.
it's usually 30 quid.
Well, there you go. If you want to buy a lost dog, it's 30 quid. Why did we start talking about lost dogs?
Because that's his name.
Whose name?
The person who put this up.
That's a worse name than Peter. Imagine if your parent Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail and Lost Dog. That is gross. Go on, moving on. Come on.
Keep it professional.
dear.
Pardon?
For goodness sake. Professional.
You're feeling sick. They look. Yeah, go on. You forgot what we're talking about.
Yeah, I have. Completely.
We're talking about
It's
dog
Age of
tones,
Sigmar.
right? No, no.
What do you think of the new Age of Sigmar models, Ben?
I think they're awesome.
Which?
but,
There's a perfect example. Right, who are you talking to?
Big Ben.
Big Ben.
Yeah.
Without being influenced by any original, I love it.
Yeah.
For me, sometimes some of the miniatures in the not too distant past were, I don't know what you call it, disturbing in the wrong way. If you look at the, whereas these are disturbing in the right. Anyway, to me they're disturbing in the right way. I'm not going to explain myself.
you will have to excuse me for 1 second as I answer a phone call, but I will be back in a second.
How dare you, Ben? Ben, don't leave me!
Why did you say? How dare you? Look, all we need is to relax, go
Yeah.
to sleep.
Okay.
I'll know because I'll
Lull
smell
me
the
down.
difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Right, let's have a look at stuff. That,
So-
we
so
can't look at
it's
Spectre
just-
miniatures. Right, so what, as I understand it, then I can't look at this stuff on the side.
yeah.
That-
No, we can't look
I
at
can.
No, we can't.
Well, then why did you say yeah?
I didn't.
You see, your worry then was that you might have given me a double positive or a double negative, but I took it the wrong way.
Yeah.
As a segue, did I tell you about Cad's got engaged?
Yes.
Yeah, and
Well,
did you
I
know?
knew this.
Did you know that he spoke to his fiance's father and he said, "Would you mind if I?" Because he thought he'd do that. And
Back.
he said, well, I haven't finished yet. Go away. He said, "Would you mind?" he goes, "Would you mind if I marry your daughter?" And his name's Peter, and he said, apparently he said no. And Cad's there like,
Oh dear.
oh, and then Cad suddenly thought, "Oh no, I said that wrong," because he said, "Would you mind?"
Yeah.
And so to answer yes, he had to say, "No, I wouldn't mind." But I just see Cad's little
Oh, my
face.
days.
It'd be like,
Oh,
it'd be like a
no.
little bald egg that's all unhappy. Anyway, moving on.
Would you like to see? No. I had. We had thought.
I can't see anything now.
It's okay. Don't worry.
Okay.
It's okay. So, would you like to see CAD?
No. Oh yeah, awesome. Too
No.
much hair.
No. Just to let you aware.
Oh no, this is like one
I
of those
thought-
terrible moments when you're seeing drinking.
Because we
stuff.
knew that John wasn't going to be on the hobby hangout.
Imagine if that was
this
something
week.
like vodka.
We
No.
isn't that water?
Table. Yeah. Do you want to try some?
Yeah, it smells suspicious.
No, it doesn't.
So we thought that
Sometimes in the morning you
because-
smell suspicious,
because
especially
Ben
before we get up.
and Cad were in the studio, I thought maybe Cad was going to be in here. So we thought we need some artwork for Cad. And then this is my interpretation of Cad.
and then, right. If you think I'm being horrible to Lance, if you could imagine some sort of an abominable, I can't say the word, hybrid version of Father Christmas and Gandalf, and then go and look at what he drew of me on the front of this, you'll realise why I have no sympathy for him.
So this is what
When
we
he's
ended
awake.
up with. We had either CAD or if we go to the browser, this is what we had.
Do you know how to handle this?
This is great because this is what I made for you.
Yeah, look!
I thought you looked great.
No, I could be Jeremy Corbyn's granddad there with a.
Look at that. It's perfect. It sits you down
What's
to a
that?
T.
What's that? What's
Yeah.
that dent in the back of? Oh, that's hair.
Give us that pose. There. Hold on. If I switch it over, right here we go. I think it works. I think it's perfect. It's a perfect fit. Moving on.
What's this I hear that John's day off today, but someone said that they were going to scotch tape him to a chair and have me talk to him live on camera?
thought that was your idea.
No, it wasn't my idea. I think it was Justin's idea, actually. Anyway, he's not here.
Yeah.
I keep looking at stuff on the sidebar that I want to look at, and you say I can't.
Sidebar. Do you want me to get like a big sheet of paper? I can hide it for you.
I'm supposed to look at this one, aren't I?
Yeah.
This one, not that one.
Yeah. So you
see
just
what
focus all your attention here.
What I have, the situation I have here, people, and it's very confusing for me especially, is I've got all the stuff with all the gubbins here that you guys can see, but now these people cheat because they also get excited to see all the gubbins that you don't see, and that's the bit I don't normally see. So I'm fascinated by that bit. No, just look straight ahead. All right, I'm looking straight ahead now.
Okay, so this is 144. He's got Tablescape Realms, and he's been painting these up with like the cool dungeon.
He's doing an awesome dungeon delving set, which I thought.
Tell me about these Tablescape. Right, I like the way he's done that. See, I really like. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So I really like this because it'd be cool for like games like Dungeon Saga.
Are you not going to let
Yeah.
original players speak? You seem to be cutting them off quite a bit. Okay. Come on, mate. It's over to you.
The thing I was going to say is that I
carry
love
on.
that he's gone for a very awesome old school look to everything, which is really nice. Because I've been getting into this. I as a lot of people know, I love my Dungeon and the Dragon and that kind of thing. And so seeing this done in like a very old school style was really nice to see.
Your terminology is slightly wrong there. Of course, it's what's known as contemporaneous when you are my age.
Oh,
If you have to
contemporaneous.
call it old school. That's fine, you young whippersnapper. Yeah, it's gorgeous.
I know,
It's
but
gorgeous
yes, it is
what he's done.
fantastic.
Yeah.
The thing I liked about this is because he's done it in a modular style as well, so he can make a whole bunch of different styles of dungeon as well, which is really nice. So it's kind of like his own little bits of Dwarven Forge in a way, which is really nice.
Yeah.
So,
Do you know, if you scroll down, Lance, well done, if you scroll down to some of the paving, you'll see that also there are some different shades in the paving stones.
Yep.
Now,
Because not all paving stones are the same.
little bit of historical fact here is that walls tend to be, natural stone walls tend to be the same unless there's strata running through it, whereas paving stones tend to be put there because they're the best stones for the job. Sometimes it's quite good with a dungeon floor if you have a bit of a, if you go to historic sites nowadays, maybe medieval, you'll find a bit of a Roman floor that's a paving type that's on the floor. And so what I like he's done with this, obviously it's not the same sort of situation, but he's just got a little bit of difference in the paving stones, and I think that's really nice. Carry on, mate. And there you see where he's put infill, he's changed the colours because it's like it's yeah. Carry on.
No, I don't know if it's like maybe the camera, but I think maybe a little bit of anti-shine would work really nicely on this, unless he wants to make it.
You're now criticising his work, aren't you?
Yeah.
No,
Well,
but
this is what we do in
I
Hobby
think this is
Hangout.
the
We
damp.
give
This is the
suggestions.
damp bit.
I'm not criticising, we give suggestions.
You're critiquing.
Yes.
There is a total difference. Have you noticed there's some people that feel that all critiquing is also criticism? Seriously, and I think one of the things that you always have a problem with on the internet is that I like trying to think of a phrase I think Muppet will do. Any Muppet can give their opinion, but very few people are brave enough to actually put their stuff up there to be critiqued. And what a lot of people don't realise is when you do put your stuff up there, you're very happy to be critiqued. You feel very frustrated with people that just want to criticise.
Yeah.
Let them put. Is that fair, mate?
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think this is really good work. I think you're right. It's what you're trying to achieve. If you want a damp dungeon, then have it like that. I think anti-glare, again, is a good idea if you want to achieve something else.
That's what I say though. It might just be the flash of the camera that makes it shinier.
Can you imagine how long the guy would have cut out those footholes? I got to get out of this place. Yeah.
I imagine.
I like that.
Yeah, this is cool.
Only if I'm going to critique it, I would say that don't train tracks all join up. See? Now that
unless there's been a seismic activity down in the dungeon,
you keep your seismic
and the train
activity
racks
to yourself.
have ripped apart the ground around it. So.
No, what I mean is that people look at a picture and they'll say something like that, and you feel like saying, "Oh, you muppet! It's obvious. I was showing you something totally different." Do you know? I like that piece.
I
love that piece
because this is a full diorama, just using modular pieces.
No, but if you look, what's really cool about that is he's got it so that the track comes down. You've got the turntable wheel thing.
Yeah.
Then it's going to be pushed up there. Then I'm imagining some sort of cart comes along and it's up there so it can be tipped into the cart And so what he's actually done then is his thought, and it's damaged, it's terrible. But I like that too. He's thought about the layout, and sometimes you see a layout and I do, because I'm a little bit sad, and I think, well, that doesn't look very, it doesn't look as if it's carried through with the narrative. Whereas this stuff looks really good fun for going through a
This
line.
is really nice, actually, because like it's got the lighting. I think maybe a little
Right,
bit of spray or something.
why is your going lighting here and now it's not doing the roundy circle thing? Look, do that again. Yeah, now it is. I guarantee a moment ago your finger wasn't up there.
What?
Your finger, your finger that squiggles. no, the finger, this one, this. Oh, where's my cap? That thing. There,
You're thinking around the circle.
the
loading.
All right. Your mouse pointer.
Yeah.
Original Ben, how did you work with this bloke?
I know he's a total freaking nightmare. It
is amazing.
It's like
mate.
Jesus, I've got to bloody spend time with Lance today. Fucking hell.
Yeah, I know. It is incredible. It is. All right, I'm going to be completely honest. It's unfortunate. Moving on.
Oh dear.
I think I might have to take some time off.
Are you feeling sleepy?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
It doesn't smell like you're sleepy.
Oh my god.
I don't know. I'm going to have to go back and look at who said that, because I am now going to use that a lot.
These.
Do you think people think I'm strange?
This is going to be our most viewed video in the archive. I'm never going to live this down, either. People are going to come up to me at conventions and be like, remember that time
you smell so good when you're away. Yeah,
you do realise that Caesar's going to make cartoons out of this as well.
No.
So
yeah.
So here's the bridges. What I like about these is actually you can make them into platforms or you can make them into bridges.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. So I think actually like playing Lord of the Rings with a goblin keep.
Goblin Town, stuff like that. Yeah.
But we were also talking about the Necromunda board, and we were just saying that if you could raise parts of that up just a little bit, so where you've got like the acid and it's burnt things away.
Yeah.
And that could, if you got some resin bits and raised it, and I was just thinking then, this would be perfect if you had some sort of, like the mats that are all sort of like volcanic bubbles and that kind of thing.
Yes.
You could do. I know we're going to get back to the old Dungeon Keeper thing, but where in Dungeon Keeper you got to the stage where you had the lizards and the lizards could walk all over the lava and that kind of thing. You could lay this stuff all over the table, and the lava then the volcanic stuff or whatever you've got underneath it, it then looks like the whole thing is thematically meant to be the same. Yeah. And then what I'd do though is the wooden bits. I'd do the charred ends as if you got a few minutes left before they blow away. That creaking is the chair they've given me. It's a substandard chair. It's unfortunate. If you look around the studio as I am now, oh my god, you see their eyes? They were terrified then. That was fear. That was fear. I mean, he's got fear in his eyes. He's trying to do his job.
Escape now while you can.
Yeah, he is. And Tom's trying to hide behind his coat. Just the arm sticking out. Anyway, these people are all in really nice chairs, and I noticed, Lance, you're in the same nice chairs. Anyway, carrying on. No, this isn't an old one at all. Anyway, go on, carry on. Carry on, Lance. That means do your job, mate.
This is great.
Right, now, do your mouse. Right, see, look. How did that happen? It wasn't there. But it wasn't there a moment ago, was it?
Technology, what are you going to do?
Technology, who needs it?
Modern magic is what this is. So, yeah.
Okay.
What's the next project, lads?
I don't know.
I'm really enjoying this. What's about Test of Honor?
Test of Honor, where did you see? Oh, Amanda.
Where
Amanda's
it says.
Test of Honor. Where it's at.
Where they scramble those letters together.
This is my mind.
Test of Honor. You need to sleep.
No, I don't need to sleep. I'm fine.
No, come on, smell the difference. They are particularly not well painted.
That's a different.
I find that unfortunate.
Nescafe ad, isn't it?
I feel it unfortunate that there hasn't been more painting on those.
Well,
this is the start. This is the start.
Yes, these are building.
They're lovely.
Can
I just say, going back and being serious, I can do it here actually, is that when these miniatures, what's really great about miniatures like this is there's many options in assembly, yeah?
Yes.
What I like about this is he's thought about how he wants. Sometimes it's very easy when you have all these options to just, I'm going to make that one, he's cool, make that one, he's cool, that one's he's cool. And all you've done is actually made some really nice standalone caricatures that don't look like a body of...
Like a group of trees.
Yeah. Whereas I like what's been done here.
I think that works especially well for when it comes to Test of Honor as well, because you've got that idea of it being a skirmish game rather than it being rank and file. But even then, while you had the ordered nature of what a Japanese army would have looked like during the period, I like the idea that each of them is an individual as well.
That's what
and they've got their own fighting styles and stuff like that. So,
yes. I just like the game. I like skirmish games. I like the way skirmish games are interpreted. For me, in all honesty, the big battle games, sometimes I would prefer them as a board game. Does that make sense?
I see what you mean. I'm coming more into the viewpoint now that if I was going to play a mass battle game, I would play it in 28mm. I'd play it in a smaller scale, so I'd play it in like 10 or 12, rather than playing it at 28. So you get that sense of a more grand
that's exactly what
fight.
Yeah, that's exactly what I feel. I mean, I fully agree with you when you say that it's sometimes. Let's face it, we're all playing with, unless we're playing skirmish games where each miniature represents that miniature, we're all playing with some sort of system where even if one figure represents 4 or one figure represents...
A level of abstraction.
Yeah, so there's an abstraction going on, and so then it's about... so then I get frustrated sometimes because if it's abstract in that way, it's abstract, let's go with it, and then you'll get somebody that I mean... distance of weapons is always out for the scale of the miniature, and so I get frustrated when people tell me what's correct and what's not correct, when in the first place we're playing with weapons that can only shoot 24 inches, and in scale they would shoot like 25 feet. So I mean, it's why
I've always liked the games that are focused around sort of modern military stuff. So Spectre with their Spectre Ops game, their game is very much like, well, weapons fire a billion, like not a billion miles. That's hyperbole, but like they fire a really long way. So it doesn't matter about range; it's about everything else that's a factor. So.
Yeah, like you say, what I like about that is that range is an irrelevance that close to the enemy. Therefore, range is irrelevant. It's the tactics and it's the power of the. Does that I think is what you're saying. That's nice. Yeah. What's that?
Let me show you this guy's project. So
you knew as soon as you showed me somebody scratch building something, I'd shut up talking.
So
you're just trying to shut me down. Carry on.
I know how to power you down.
Will you just get on with it?
This is Soup Dodger's work.
I now use. I'm reading this. I now use 2mm MDF as well.
You may remember Soup Dodger from past terrain projects where he made like a greenhouse.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah.
But at this point, he's taken Infinity Terrain because you get these like standard box trains where you just fold them up. And they don't look particularly like they look okay for.
I can't make a comment due to my professional role.
So
I won't be making a comment.
Well, I'll make the comment. I don't think they look rather good. They're okay for playing games. Like
they're good when you're starting out.
I think they are. They fit the purpose.
Yeah.
Because for me, they block line of sight. They give you the right height.
Yeah. But
that's awesome.
This is Soap Dodger's work because he's sculpting these himself, using the designs on the Infinity boxes and making his own terrain. And some of them are just phenomenal.
Really well done.
Really nice.
If you want to do some freelance work, that's 4ground.co.uk. Just email us.
Yeah, there you go, Soap Dodger. He's even put in a video, so I'll just mute it just for now, but he shows the entire build process.
I love that.
So not only is he showing how he sculpted them, he's showing exactly like...
Can I just say at that point, one point there, when he glued that on, that means stop it. Yeah, I love you, Lance. You're great, mate. You're really good. What are you doing? I'm fine now. What I was going to say, Lance just looking at me saying, I'm going to so smack you when we come up there. if you're going to have this gap of hair in your beard. You're going to look like some sort of backwoods man with, in the old days where you're wondering why.
What do you want to say about the project, man?
Right, but we'll get back to it then, Lance. I know what it is. When you're asleep, you tend to perspire less with frustration, and I think that's the smell, stale sweat. No, right. You glue a panel like this, and you've stuck it on. What's really important is you've got to realise is, I mean, I've heard loads of nonsense about why MDF warps and stuff, and if it's painted and everything else. The reason that the MDF will warp is because the moisture content in the air will change from the time when you've glued it on.
Okay.
So now, if you were to glue that on now and it were to become very moist, then what you'd actually get is that the side you're looking at wants to expand, and so it won't necessarily warp away, but it'll put it under pressure, and it might lift the glue on the underside. And if it becomes much drier, you might find it warps up. It's because the underside actually isn't moving, and it's the side that hasn't been finished that is moving. Okay. So what I would say with doing that is, don't be afraid to just matte varnish seal a job if you know you're not going to go back to it for a few weeks.
Yeah.
And you know it's in the raw, so it's got no primer or paint or anything on it. Sometimes and you come back to it, you go, why is that changed? Why is that warped? It's actually because the moisture content in the air is different from when you did it, and one side is completely sealed and the other side is completely exposed. So you see, Lance, I was actually being serious then.
Okay, good stuff.
You're so stressed.
And here
We're
we
a
can
team,
see
mate.
them
We are the team. We're the in-house team. Original Ben is just contributing from afar.
Yeah.
Whereas you and I are next to each other.
He's sitting with his feet up, having a cup of tea.
Whereas you and I are next.
Honestly, like I'm playing Halo.
You better not be Ben.
No, I'm not.
I want to just say, Ben, that for some reason Lance seems to have jammed his knees under his desk and his feet to the floor, and he's locked in now. He's getting stressed. Do you think original Ben's giving you a bit of a rough time, mate?
Yeah, I think so.
That's wrong.
Ben's really mean to me.
Yeah. Which one? Oh, original Ben.
Yes.
This bloody Lance, like.
But if you can just.
I love this because this is a tribute to like Fight Club.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful little thing to like send off and add to your like signature.
It's lovely, but I don't know myself. Those corporations, they're not decals. That's actually what he's painted. I don't know which they must. I reckon they're gorgeous. I mean that's just. And look at the damage. Look at why can't I have Can I just reach over there?
Yeah.
Right, thank you.
Okay. Sure.
Right.
Just
Okay.
you take the mouse.
Right. Do you see that?
Okay. Yeah.
The rust.
Yeah.
The way it's been done. The way. Yeah, I really like it. I would have move out the way a minute. Good. I would have maybe put. Can they? Right, I can't see that on theirs. Can they see it?
Yeah, let me just.
You do it.
Okay, I will do it.
What are you doing now?
I'm taking that into Photoshop so we can have a closer look. There
Okay. Oh, and then can they see that?
Yes. There we
Right.
go.
So now, if I get the pokey finger, no, that's an arrow. We're using
click on it. There you go.
Wow, that's awesome. Right, I would have perhaps done a bit of oil because I imagine they lubricate these bits where they lock them down and that kind of thing. But other than that, it's absolutely awesome, and I could never do as well as that.
It's that kind of thing that when you're playing like we've talked about how skirmish games like you need to get drawn into a narrative. Yeah. When you see terrain pieces like this that have had that extra bit of attention and love go into them, it keeps you within that world, and it starts to continually like play out that story a little bit more on the tabletop, and it works. It's like when you go, you know, if you dive into a video game or whatever, and you see that the sort of background, the geometry is kind of like being half-assed done. It's
I am
kind
listening,
of like,
Ben. Yeah,
but
no, you're right. You're right. You're right. Yeah. No, for skirmish games, the more immersive, the better. You know. I'm blown away by that.
Is that? Yeah, he's smudged a bit here.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's on purpose, but
let's go with yes.
And then,
that's so clever.
Individually.
That's so clever. You see, so they're not decals. He's actually cut them to fit.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cool.
That's very cool, and a very good way of and I love. So is this one rated on its how much information you're showing?
They're rated on whatever, so you can see I've been here before. I've given it all.
Pop on a few more clickies on the tutorial.
I can't.
You can't.
No, I
you
can
just
click it
load
off and click it on. Tell you what, you
version
go in your
2.
account later.
This is version 2.
You go in your
changes
account later. And
what's the BB gun balls for?
Well, let's find out.
Let's do that, Lance.
Didn't it before could be?
BB.
I Like a big plastic BBs for BB guns. Have used
For
instead
LEDs.
For
when he's
LEDs.
doing it. There you go.
That's amazing.
So,
It just shows how inventive people can be when it comes to terrain.
Oh,
doesn't it? It's like,
wait a minute! I now know what that
They're
was.
lights.
So that was radiant light. That is awesome. I am so glad I read that because Lance, you'd look ridiculous.
clearly my fault. Yeah.
Very nice work. I don't know if anyone's ever said about if you want to do any freelance work. That's numeral 4 ground.co.uk. That's the company I was thinking of. Really.
So you can
See, we'd have to worry about
this is
IP
the
of other
original
people,
box.
but
And then
so what have I done so
This
far
is
today? I've been
design.
looking for freelancers and I've been placing snips.
yeah,
I think that's damn decent of me, really.
I'm going to give this all. There you go, Ben. Are you happy now?
I think that's really. I really like. Yes, I am, mate. Sorry, Lance.
Very good.
And remember, like I said, we were friends before we came in the room.
Yeah.
A few weeks'
Are
time,
we
it'll
still
be
friends?
just as if we were friends for you. Me, I want to get even closer.
We'll invite you around for dinner tonight then.
That would be nice.
But like Hannibal there.
nice Chianti.
You've got beautiful eyes.
You do know I'm the full fat Coke, don't you? None of this Diet Coke.
Nactrex says he's got a really easy way for getting a rust effect. You
Yeah.
paint your weathering on first with the top coat,
Yeah.
then get some airbrush thinner on a cotton bud and gently rub through the top coat.
That-
Similar idea to the old salt and hairspray trick, but less
That-
fiddly and gets a similar result.
That is awesome, but not only that, but the great one with the salt is it looks very much like it's been worn with corrosion, whereas this looks like the paint's been scrubbed off and it's just got rusty, which is nice because that's the kind of environment I envisage this in. Whereas
Yeah.
if I was going to do, I'd take the layer off if I wanted to look as if you'd have exposed some metal and that's then oxidized. If I wanted to make it look as if it was destroyed in the desert, I'd probably go for the old salt look. So that's him thinking. I mean, he's obviously now looking at this. He's thought very long on what he's doing, and I now realise that these lights are actually location points for where you'd fix the next level, aren't they? Really cool. Really, really cool. Nicely done. That company with the 4Ground, numeral 4, ground.co.uk, they also prime in colours, which would look really nice with his if he was ever thinking of becoming like a freelance designer or something. We also do yellow snips as well. Did I tell you about the yellow snips?
No, you didn't.
I'm pushing the yellow snips this afternoon. Oh, I love the tutorial.
Yeah.
I do. I love that because some people like to mystify things, and really, the only thing you need to do with this is definitely determination, but a clean workspace, if that makes sense, and know what your idea is.
So this is more vanilla stuff.
Yeah.
But basing it off these kind of things.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
vending machines in
Yeah.
Japan.
Yeah.
So he's making these, and the little vending machines will pop out.
I like them. Very good.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah, it's cool. It is cool. And what I like it when you are playing in a battlefield environment that wasn't made to be a battlefield environment. Because in reality, violence comes to places that were once not violent and used for another purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when you have all this detritus of life before the violence, before the apocalypse, it works.
It's why I've always had thought of a really cool idea for a tabletop for Infinity would be one set on like a proper main road, like a motorway style system.
Right.
So you have all the cars piled up and everything like that, and like something has happened. Maybe a truck has been overturned because it's been blown up by one of the factions or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you've got everything else happening around
What's
you.
going on, mate? We're losing.
And then everyone's fighting and stuff. So
sorry, we're getting some real flickering going on here. It's really scary.
It's okay. It's just the browser.
Oh, it's really.
Ghost of the machine.
No, I don't know. It's just really distressing me.
Let's have a look at
Lance,
that.
do you think maybe you've got some sort of like personal energy now that you're like is like interfering with
It
everything?
could be. Yeah.
Like nervous disposition or anything? I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know what.
Just for everyone though who's not here, I have noticed now that his knee has now lowered from underneath the desk and his foot is flat now. Desmond Morris, who did a lot of like man watching and that kind of thing, he would say that you're more relaxed now than you were a little while ago when you were extremely stressed and wanted to dump me. Would you say that you probably are feeling less of an urge to hurt me?
No, I'd say it's.
You feel the same.
Average, yeah.
Oh well, there you go. I was just trying to repair some damage in our relationship. But moving on.
This Plague Fleet was a very nice
that's
project.
That's really cool. Yeah.
It's taking again one of the older models from a long forgotten range now, I guess you'd say, and doing something interesting and new with it, which is very cool. So.
Yeah, but also I hate this look of like spores that are about to burst out of those.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know there's a word for the phobia that people have of holes in flesh? Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
My fiance has that. She doesn't like it.
Yeah. Well, I can't think what. But there is actually the feeling that
fleshy hole syndrome.
No, it's grub bursting out of the skin syndrome. Hole.
Yeah.
Thing. And that really. Oh, I like that too.
Basically everything that Papa Nurgle loves. Yeah.
Papa Nurgle. Yeah. That's cool.
But no, I really liked the way the tentacles have been done for that one. Because you can imagine them in space sort of like slowly writhing their way around the ship and everything.
Yes.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Perfect storage solution for the fleet.
It is.
Maiden box.
It is.
Eddie himself would be proud.
Yeah. Yeah. Or any pill box that you could run for the pills.
Yeah. Dear.
You take my mic and I take yours too. You won't take it. Oh, you know it's true. I think that's amazing.
I got more achievements.
What? Keeping your cool?
Yeah.
What can you cash these achievements in for? Fame.
Fame and not really fortune.
Douglas.
Bragging rights at the moment. Yeah.
All right, mate. It is a great community, though. When you see, you seldom see somebody being annoying on the Beasts of War community. I think it's very supportive. And
I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
There's for anyone that doesn't know, there was the new release of Age of Sigmar last weekend, and obviously there was
What's
some
that
new.
About, then? Carry on.
But there was a video that came out, and it was hosted by Becca Scott from Geek and Sundry, and everyone, pretty much in every other place on the internet, was like, "Oh, fucking hell, woman on that." Sorry, I swore there. Woman on talking about gaming and stuff like that. And then on Beast of War, everyone was very nice, and they were very happy, and I was very proud of that. So
good, mate. Good. Scroll down this, but you're right, Ben, and I think you guys have done a wonderful job. And I can be as sarcastic as I like, and I often am. But I think you guys have done a wonderful job of making an environment where it's comfortable to be here. And I mean, I've made friends. Even one of my closest friends that I've made from this, I actually found out he's a dentist, and I hate dentists. But we're friends. He's not getting a Roman fort. But anyway, right, if we could just scroll down now. You're talking about inspiration. I mean, I like his studio in the attic and everything else. But if you're talking about inspiration, when we were talking, and then you go further on down, and that Waterloo movie at the bottom, that kind of thing, and it's really good to get that inspiration. I think that's why sometimes, when you go to an historical event where you have call them what you like, historical interpreters, reenactors, to actually get to look at the equipment, because these guys, their main purpose of their hobby and their interest in history is to do some I think they call it experimental archaeology, where you make the thing and do that. But if you get up really close to it, and then it's really amazing stuff. And I think he's right to go and look at movies. Did you see with his studio? Yeah. He's got that all-powerful flooding light that's not directed directly at his workplace, so it'll give him ambient light, which is good. Yeah. Nice wash on. Yeah. Ben, are you stirring your coffee, mate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I was saying earlier in the chat that my housemate has cooked some very nice smelling food for lunch, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm so hungry now. Yeah. But what I was going to say actually about that project there is something you were talking about as well. Is like I'm really turning myself over to the idea of doing some interesting stuff when it comes to historical, because I love the idea of, similar to what's what's been happening with Burrows and Badgers. I love the idea of looking at reference images and trying to make that work in on a model and try and get it as accurate as possible. So I keep toying with the idea of maybe picking up some smaller sets of like Napoleonic stuff from Warlord or something like that, and just playing around with some of them, because then if I ever do want to play games with them, I've got things like shot practice and all that kind of thing to get stuck into. So yeah,
I think what has been good for historical gaming, especially if you think of Flames and War, Flames of War,
they do go together.
Yeah, that kind of thing, is that I remember when people could feel quite reluctant to get involved with historical gaming because they didn't know what formation they should put their units in. They didn't know necessarily how they should paint their units. And sometimes people would critique that why are we looking at really cool stuff when I'm talking about something else, Lance?
I'm just
I can't believe
I'm just keeping the visuals
No,
going.
I actually feel now it's rather like you sort of like screamed me out like some sort of white noise in the background, and you're just hoping to survive. Think of me as the backdrop white noise of the universe. I will always be there. I will be the last moment when you go from sleep to the next stage in your development as a spiritual being. As I was saying, what I was talking about was that historical now, if you want to you're given all the help, so therefore you're not going to turn up with an army that is just stupid, if that because of your lack of knowledge. And so that's made it much more encouraging for people when they're new to a particular period of history or something to be able to play it. And knowledge should come ideally in a passive learning kind of a way. You gain, the knowledge that I've gained from historical gaming has really enabled me to want to go and find those things out. And sometimes I'll just press Google it, and other times I'll try and be more in depth. You're laughing at my ability to Google nonsense.
No, I'm laughing at Sundancer's
That's cool.
comics. Comments.
Yeah. Sorry. That's nice.
Yeah.
How did we get here?
How we got here is
I was
you
too
guys have
busy
been
talking
rambling
to myself in the...
and I've been looking at people's work in airbrush techniques.
Yeah.
So we got a
That,
Star Wars
yeah,
Legion
I like
airspeeder here, which is very nicely.
It's that same...
Like
once it was painted all beautifully and nice, and then they gave it to the soldiers.
That's the thing that I think I'm going to have to start looking at. Obviously we've talked about it a little bit before on
Like that. Yeah, go on.
like other shows as well. It's that idea of being able to use the airbrush, even if it's just for that initial stage of basing and priming it in the colours right, but then also to use it in a weathering context as well. And those kind of that's I think that's a key technique, because I still do most of my painting is still just done by a brush basically.
What I like about this hanger that's just disappeared momentarily, it's back again, is I love the thematic posters in the background that are relevant to the faction in the actual factory itself. So the
nice bit of Lenin, yeah.
The what I mean is that they've thought about the setting for the photograph as well, and they've got a worker encouragement on the walls. That was it. Really.
Would you like to see your friends bolt action?
Would I like to see my friends?
Yeah.
Bolt action. Oh no, it's painful, isn't it? He's not. Do you know what? Dentists do not get Roman thoughts. It's just he's awesomely good, isn't he? He's just
very good.
Yeah, and do you know another thing about Andy that drives me nuts? He's so bloody quick.
Yeah.
It's just we always say that. Yeah, he's insanely quick when it comes to paint.
He's really quick. He's really
the detail on the badge there.
I know. I'm gonna break his fingers. I can't though, can I? He's a dentist. I'm terrified of dentists. I was an army brat. That means my dad was in the army, and when we were stationed at Decalia in Cyprus, I had a bad tooth, and I had to go to the dentist, and I had one of the scariest moments of my entire life, because the guy that I had been annoying on the other side of the garden turned out to be the dentist. And my neighbour really hated me. and he said stuff like, "If it hurts, put your hand up." I put 2 bloody hands up, and this man is obviously dealing with strong adults, terrified the living daylights out of me, and I've never been happy with dentists.
Did you bother him ever since? As a neighbour?
No, I don't think I did. I think I was too traumatised to bother him. It's really,
What you should have done is you should have just been worse, but kept your teeth better.
No, because I didn't understand. I didn't understand that. I just thought in my my birthday is towards the end of March, and so every few years, people all over the country had a birthday for my birthday, and it was only many years later I thought, it's only when it coincides with this Easter thing. It's more to do with Jesus than me, and so I actually.
You think you were the second coming, did you?
No, you're putting words in my mouth. But perhaps you will be waking up tomorrow and everything will be fine. So I actually thought I couldn't comprehend why my mum had given me to the next door neighbour in this room full of scary things. And, so anyway, I don't know why I must be feeling too relaxed now, because I'm telling you about personal issues in my youth and dentists and why I can't believe Andy's that kind of a person, because I really like him.
Just thinking back to what Andy's just in there, I want to just raise the other point that one of the big things about all the things he does is that he names so many of his different characters.
Yeah.
And I would love it to be in a reality that Andy could stand there, look at his shelf, and go, "That's Fritz, that's Heinz, that's whatever."
Yeah, but if you look at every one of his armies, there'll be a little like I think we'd call it Werner, but it's Werner, the name. And most of his armies have that name in it, and I reckon he's imagining it's like the one little guy through history.
Yes, cool. Yeah. I love this little project. It's lovely, this one.
Yeah, that is really nice.
It's picking up some of the really nice characterful models from, I think it's Northumbrian Tin Soldier, I believe it is.
The thing is, there are some awesome miniatures among that range, and also some of them are very thematic. Of a certain kind of a. It's how the sculpture interprets what they should look like, and that is a range that.
It's a very like comical style.
Yeah, what I'm trying to. It's
very like Wallace and Gromit.
Well, I was also going to say if Asterix and Obelisk were in D&D, they would be in this range.
It's got its own unique aesthetic, and it's one of the things that I think has been we talked about it a little bit before on one of the weekenders, looking back at this range and stuff from like the likes of Lead Adventure and what those guys do too, and there's because it doesn't look very typical to the kind of idea that you'd imagine for example a dwarf or an elf and things like that. People immediately will look at it and maybe dismiss it, but then if you look closer and you think about it in greater detail, imagine if you had everything on your gaming table looking in that same style and aesthetic, it would suddenly work and it would feel cohesive, and that's what you get there with that project as well, which is really cool. So
what about
it's kind of like Confrontation, really. They have a very, very unique take on a lot of standard fantasy tropes and stuff.
Yeah, they do. They do.
And people love it.
So next up, we're going to be looking at is building an industrial high table.
So this is the one we looked at in XLBS as well. This one.
Yeah.
But this is the slightly more like, imagine it was a little bit more of a cleaner looking table, which is quite interesting. So
yeah. But I do like the fact that the thought that's gone into it, the fact that there will be vehicles around, definitely. How will the skeleton? Do you ever have real trouble talking on this show when you've been doing it for? I don't normally talk much, you see, so obviously it feels a bit strange. But he's thinking of the theme as you're building it up, and I know that GW have brought out some great accessories, if you like, that you can put with theirs. And then I think we've got, is it TT Combat?
TT Combat stuff, yeah.
Here, which is the thing with TT Combat is it's really good if you want to fill a lot of space. So I think that's cool.
The one thing, an interesting point that this project brought up to me though is when it comes to painting terrain like you see here, and then tying it into something that's like a game mat, because game mats are obviously a really fantastic way for you to set up a table without having to worry too much about like massive planks of wood and all that kind of thing. But I sometimes feel that you can have a problem by if you paint your terrain in a certain way that doesn't quite match the way that the mat looks. It can feel a little bit sort of like abrasive to the thing, and I think that maybe that's just my own fault when it comes to painting what I've done for my mat, because I've done like a range of fantasy stuff, and it's kind of a little bit too bright for what the mat that I'm working on. But it's just something that I've seen has worked very, very nicely, and what has been done in this project is that he's tied the terrain into the mat design so that it works very nicely with it. So yeah, it's very cool, especially when you look at some of the basing for things like the objective markers and that kind of thing. As well.
Keeping it thematic and that kind of thing.
Nice.
Right.
Okay. Well, you said you were a bit tired there, Ben.
No, I'm not tired. We can go for hours, mate. We're fine.
I'm tired.
We're tired of me.
Can you not smell it?
Yeah.
That was resignation. That was.
Thank you very much. Smacking laptop.
What people don't realise is that Lance is very much in the corner. If you look at the start of this, you'll find that Lance was more central in the photograph, and I'm actually very. I am impressed with Lance's professionalism, because I have done my best here to. I suppose the best way to describe it is irritate you.
Yeah.
You are going now, aren't you? Lance is. Oh, I could do some buttons without you. What would Lloyd feel if I did that?
What kind of buttons do you
These
press?
These.
What's he
I don't know. What am I doing now? What is that?
What is he doing? No, don't close that.
Why not?
Because we need that.
What about that one?
We need that too.
No, then.
Right.
Yeah. You leave it. All right.
Goodness sake.
God,
That's going to be all from Hobby Hangout.
You were wanting me to use 4-lettered words to describe where I should go.
No.
In short joke emotions.
If you want to come across to beastofwar.com, and now because you closed this, I don't know if it's going to load up now. So let's just check.
Oh, you're blaming it on me?
Yeah. Look at that. Look at that.
What?
It hasn't come up, so now I have to load it back in. If you like what you've seen here at Hobby Hangout,
when do I get to plug?
What?
When you're going to do a plug, when do I get to do a plug?
You can plug.
Kind of a plug.
Right after. Okay, you can plug
before.
right now. Okay, hold on.
So,
I'm typing in your
it's
web
not.
address.
Oh, right. Cad and I. Oh, look. Yeah. That wasn't what I was going to plug in any case.
All right. Okay.
What I was going to plug was the fact that if guys are over at Historicon next month, Cad and I will both be there with Nige, who is our US representative. I was just saying, if they want to chat, you must think they're mad to want to chat with me. Yeah. Anyway, Lance, it's as always, mate. It's really good being here. You guys are really good fun. What people might not know is Lance is actually developing his own game, and I played it today, and I thought it was awesome.
Developing a few games. Developing a few games. By the way, just to let you know,
promoting yourself. I was just.
If you go across to Beast, we've lost it. We've lost it here too. For goodness sake. Now, if you go over to the Beast of War forums, you can see it up in the top right corner. I've been working on I'm logged out as well.
Why did you log out?
Because you closed the window on me. If you go here to game developer discussions, I've got a little topic that I want your help with. So I'd love to see anyone's comments on
your
how to
help the
improve
people,
that game.
not me. Then you rather enjoy less help from me sometimes.
I want the community to be involved in this game, because this is like a little base building game.
You don't even value my opinion.
And I definitely value it.
No,
you're just doing your best to try and aggravate.
I am doing. My wife actually told me that I am a fine example of a man.
Are you?
She has a very low opinion of men, but she did say that.
Okay. So, to continue my plug,
so what does
if
that
I can,
do?
come across to beastofwar.com, you can find a whole range of topics. You can click here in the games, if I can, there we go. See, I'm not even in the browser.
You are absolutely, I'll tell you what,
Come across, and you click all
that's
these
not
cool
your
games.
smell
You
that's
can
changing,
see
that's
Wild
my
West
smell
Exodus
that's changing, by the way.
It's a great
that's
game.
a natural
you come in
thing.
And you can rate your
you
game,
shouldn't
see
keep
all
it
the
in.
content
You
for
keep it in, it could cause you
and if you want to support
problems.
Beast of War,
You let it act.
come
It's a
across,
natural function.
join for a 7-day
Smell
free
will change.
trial where you can get painting guides, training
Best way
guides,
to get rid of it,
system
Lance,
tactics, and you
is
get
go
merch at
for it.
beastofwar.equid.
Filter it through your nose.
I did it!
Yeah, are we off air?
No, we're not.
That's the smell of team spirit, mate.
That's Nirvana.
If you think that smell is Nirvana, I can't believe
Scout
it.
Ben, please say goodbye.
Yeah. Oh, and
Bye.
original Ben, mate. Cheers. See you soon.
Awesome. See you soon. It was
mate.
fantastic talking today. I
know.
loved this
Lance
stream.
really almost loved it.
Say goodbye, Ben.
Cheers, guys.
Bye, everyone.